What if I told you that the greatest threat to your future isn't failure, poverty, or heartbreak, but comfort? What if I told you the real enemy is the couch you collapse into? The endless scroll on your phone, the warm bed that keeps you sleeping through your potential. This is not some motivational speech. It's a warning. Because something strange is happening right now, something most people won't admit. We are losing a silent war. A war not with bombs or bullets, but with convenience. We are becoming prisoners of ease, numbed by routine, and sedated by our own success. Adrian was 29, living what most people would envy, co-founder of a tech company in downtown Chicago, six-figure income, freedom, recognition. But inside, he was collapsing, not because his world was falling apart, but because nothing was truly challenging him anymore. Every day felt like walking through fog. He wasn't alive, he was just functioning. This is the invisible battle most people are fighting. And losing it doesn't show up in dramatic headlines. It doesn't announce itself like a crisis. It sneaks in silently. It looks like skipped workouts, delayed dreams, unspoken truths, and constant scrolling. It feels like emptiness that no success seems to fill. And here's the twist. It's not that you're not good enough. It's that you've been too comfortable for too long. The Stoics saw this coming centuries ago. They lived through plagues, betrayal, exile, and yet they didn't fall apart. Why? Because they chose to prepare for struggle even when life was good. They trained their minds like warriors. Titus Castor, a lesser-known Roman general and philosopher, once said, "A soul that is never tested will never grow teeth." That one line changed Adrian's life, and maybe it will change yours too. Comfort promises peace, but it delivers apathy. It whispers you're safe, while quietly stealing your edge. Every time you choose what's easy, you trade a piece of your strengths for a hit of temporary relief, and the price is your resilience. You don't need another motivational reel. You don't need to feel better. You need to get stronger. And to do that, you need to face the hardest truth of all. You've been trained to survive, but not to fight. You've been told to chase comfort, not purpose. And it's made you fragile. But there is another path. One walked by warriors of the mind. People who no longer wait for life to challenge them, they challenge themselves. This is the Stoic path. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't a feel-good journey. It's a feel-everything journey. You will hurt. You will confront truths you've avoided for years. But you will also rise. Because the soul, like the body, doesn't grow in rest, it grows under pressure. So before we go any further, if this hits something in you, if you feel that inner fire starting to flicker again, do this. Subscribe to this channel, not because it's trending, but because this is not noise. It's your signal. And if you help this channel grow, we'll keep creating the kind of content that doesn't just inspire, but transforms. Now, before we dive into the next law, let's test your awareness. Which mindset leads to long-term growth? A. Avoid discomfort and protect your peace. B. Embrace discomfort and sharpen your strength. Drop your answer in the comments, A or B, and let's see how many warriors are really here. Most people think growth feels like progress, like forward motion, motivation, excitement. But the truth is, real growth doesn't feel good. It burns, it bruises, it makes you question if it's even worth it. And yet, it's the only kind of growth that lasts. Leona knows this well. A trauma surgeon from Barcelona, she spends her days in the operating room making decisions that mean life or death. But what sets her apart isn't just the precision of her hands, it's the strength of her mind. Every morning, before the sun rises, she wakes up to a silent apartment, eats a cold, flavorless meal, runs in the rain, and showers in water that shocks her system. Not because she needs to, but because she chooses to. Why? Because comfort has a cost, and she refuses to pay it with her soul. The world will tell you to chase ease, to make things smoother, faster, simpler. But ease doesn't build character. Ease builds dependency. Leona trains in discomfort, not for glory, not to prove anything but to build an inner edge. She's not waiting for the storm to test her. She's preparing so that when it comes, she doesn't flinch. The Stoics call this practice preparatio meliorem, a deliberate confrontation with the harshness of life before it hits. It's not suffering for suffering's sake. It's calculated resistance, controlled exposure to discomfort in order to stretch your capacity. You see, growth lives on the edge of pain, and if you avoid that edge, you never get stronger. You only get softer. We live in a world of endless convenience. Everything is designed to make life more comfortable: food, entertainment, even relationships. But the result is a generation of people who are overstimulated, under-challenged, and spiritually malnourished. We are taught to fear boredom, avoid struggle, and seek comfort at all costs. And it's making us weak. So how do you reclaim your edge? How do you get back to that raw, unshakable self that existed before life smoothed out your edges? You choose discomfort on purpose. You take a day without your phone and face the silence. Not just outer silence, but the inner noise that convenience usually drowns out. You walk into a hard conversation you've been putting off, not to win, but to stand in truth. You skip the easy meal and cook something basic and real with your own hands. You take a cold shower, not because it's trendy, but because it trains your nervous system to withstand shock without panic. These aren't rituals of punishment. They're rituals of remembrance. They remind you that you are not here to be entertained. You are here to evolve. And here's the secret. Every time you choose discomfort consciously, you send a message to your subconscious: I'm in charge. And that message compounds. Over time, it builds a version of you that doesn't run when things get messy, that doesn't retreat when life throws a punch. Leona doesn't wait to be strong in the emergency room. She trains for it before she gets there. And you don't have to be a surgeon to live like that. You can start where you are, with whatever pain you've been avoiding, because what you avoid owns you. But what you face, you master. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming capable. It's about trusting yourself so deeply that no situation can rattle your core. That kind of strength doesn't show up in perfect conditions. It shows up in the rain, the cold, the silence. In the places where most people tap out, so burn the blanket. Let go of the illusion that life should always be soft. Because just beyond the edge of your comfort zone is the version of you that won't just survive the chaos but lead through it. Growth doesn't feel good. It feels real. And once you taste it, there's no going back. Rami had always considered himself sensitive, emotionally aware, and deeply intuitive. But somewhere along the way, his emotions stopped being a gift hand, started becoming a trap. A single text from a client canceling a shoot would ruin his day. A cold comment from a stranger online could spiral him into doubt. He'd replay conversations for hours, caught in invisible loops of overthinking and regret. It wasn't that Rami was broken, it was that his emotions were driving the car, and he was just a passenger. This is a modern epidemic. We've been told that emotions should be expressed freely, that feeling deeply is a virtue, and it can be. But when our feelings dictate our actions, our moods, our self-worth, we don't have emotions. They have us. The Stoics saw this centuries ago. They didn't preach the elimination of emotion, but the mastery of it. They believed emotions are like weather passing, intense, but not permanent. The storm will pass, but only if you know how to anchor yourself. Rami discovered this when he started practicing a method he called emotional strength training. Not therapy, not suppression, but training. Like an athlete builds endurance, he began to build space between his triggers and his reactions. He learned to pause before he spoke, to breathe before he snapped, to observe, not obey, the rising wave of anger, jealousy, or shame. There's a moment, just a sliver of space between what happens to you and what you do about it. The Stoics believed that moment holds your freedom, and if you miss it, you lose yourself. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you never feel rage or sadness or fear. It means those emotions no longer hijack your mind. It means you can feel deeply without being dominated, that you can stand in a storm and not be blown away. One night, after a tough shoot fell through, and Rami was spiraling into that familiar loop of doubt and self-judgment, he sat with a notebook and asked one question: what am I actually reacting to? Not the event, but the meaning he was attaching to it. And the truth came like a whisper. You think being rejected means you're not worthy? That wasn't the client's fault. That was his responsibility. That's when everything shifted. Because once you understand that your reaction is your creation, you can change it. The Stoics practiced this by journaling daily, examining their thoughts, dissecting their fears, confronting their pride. They knew the mind was wild by nature and needed constant tending, not punishment, not guilt, but observation, honesty, discipline. Rami began to treat each emotional trigger like a workout. When someone pushed his buttons, he didn't see it as an offense. He saw it as an opportunity, a chance to practice calm under pressure, a chance to respond with intention instead of instinct. And over time, that small shift made him dangerous, not in a violent way, but in a grounded, calm, unfuckwithable way. Think about this. How many of your worst moments came not from what happened, but from how you reacted? The argument you escalated, the message you sent in anger, the day you wasted, stuck in resentment. Now imagine reclaiming that time, that energy, that peace. Emotional freedom isn't about denying your humanity. It's about elevating it, about being able to feel everything and still choose who you want to be. That is power. In a culture that teaches us to vent everything, to explode, to unload, the Stoic mindset is radical. It says, wait, watch, choose, because your first reaction is rarely your best one. But your chosen response, that's where your character lives. Rami didn't become a sage overnight. He still feels the sting of rejection. He still gets shaken sometimes. But now he knows where his power lives, not in controlling the world, but in mastering his own response to it. And maybe that's what we all need to hear. That calm isn't a personality trait, it's a practice. That peace isn't something we find, it's something we build. Every moment you feel like lashing out, shutting down, or giving up, that's your rep. That's your emotional gym. And every time you choose clarity over chaos, you get stronger. Not for applause, not for perfection, but for yourself. Because the world doesn't need more people reacting. It needs more people rising. Maya stood alone in the quiet gallery in Florence, surrounded by her own work. For 5 years she had poured herself into these canvases with every ounce of emotion she had. Long nights alone with nothing but brush strokes and silence. Dreams woven into oil and texture. And yet, gallery after gallery, critic after critic, her work was ignored. Not because it lacked beauty, not because it lacked soul, but because the world simply didn't reward her effort. And for a while, she let that destroy her. She had believed the lie that many of us believe, that hard work guarantees results, that if you give your best, life will meet you halfway. But that's not how the world works. Life does not operate on fairness. It never has. And when Maya finally stopped expecting it to, something inside her broke free. She remembered something an old professor once told her, quoting a Stoic she couldn't name at the time. You cannot control outcomes. You can only control the quality of your effort. That line buried itself deep inside her and grew roots. She realized that the art was never about praise. It was never about being seen. It was about becoming someone so dedicated to their path that even silence could not shake them. The illusion of fairness is a trap. It tells you that you are owed something, that if you suffer enough, try hard enough, love deeply enough, you will be repaid. But the Stoics never traded in illusions. They dealt only in reality. They understood that expecting fairness is not only naive, it's weakening. It teaches you to wait, to hope, to live with bitterness when things don't go your way. And, worst of all, it robs you of the power to act regardless of the result. When Maya let go of fairness, she began to paint differently. Not for validation, not for success, but for clarity, for mastery, for the simple, honest joy of creation. That shift was quiet, but seismic. Because when you detach from the need for an outcome, you unlock a kind of freedom that most people never touch. You start moving from a place of strength, not scarcity. You work not because it will make you famous or rich, but because it aligns with who you are becoming. The same applies to every part of life. Relationships, careers, growth. You can give your all and still be left. You can do the right thing and still be misunderstood. But if your peace is tied to an outcome, you will always be at the mercy of circumstances. You will chase approval like a drug. You will collapse every time something doesn't go your way. The Stoics would say, let go of the outcome and rise into your effort. Show up like it matters, but don't cling to the reward. Let the reward be the process itself, the showing up, the staying honest, the refusing to give up on yourself. That's the only power that no one can take from you. Maya started something she called invisible work weeks. 7 days where she would create intensely and privately. No posting, no sharing, no talking about what she was making. Just her and the canvas. It became a sacred space where ego couldn't enter, where results didn't matter, only integrity did. That ritual changed her. It reminded her that her value didn't rise and fall with the world's opinion. It lived in how she honored her gift. We all carry something like that, a project we love, a version of ourselves we want to become. But as long as we tie that to applause or outcome, we stay stuck. We shrink. We fear failure more than we chase growth. And that fear, unspoken and constant, becomes a cage. Let it go. Let go of fairness. Let go of needing the world to clap. Let go of waiting for everything to fall into place. It rarely does. And when it doesn't, who will you be? Let that question guide you. Because the one who keeps walking, who keeps building, who keeps living with purpose, even when the rewards are nowhere in sight, that person is unstoppable. That person is rare. That person is free. Kai never waited for the alarm. He woke up before the world stirred, not because he had to, but because he knew one truth the rest of the world seemed to forget. Chaos does not send a warning. It arrives when you least expect it. As a firefighter in Vancouver, Kai had faced his share of storms. Burning buildings, collapsing roofs, screaming voices, and deafening silence. But what separated him from panic was not bravery, it was preparation. He trained for it before it came, not just with drills and equipment, but with the mindset of someone who refuses to be caught unready. Kai believed in hardship by choice. It began long before his shifts. Cold showers before dawn, weighted hikes through forest trails with no music, no noise, just his breath and the sound of his boots on dirt. Days of eating simply, training without an audience, and choosing discomfort when comfort was always available. He wasn't punishing himself. He was conditioning his will. The Stoics had a word for this: voluntary hardship. A practice that seems outdated in a world obsessed with ease. But they understood something timeless. If you wait until life gets hard to become strong, you're already too late. Strength is not something you summon in the moment. It's something you build quietly over time. Like armor forged long before the battlefield. Modern life makes this easy to forget. Everything is tailored to convenience. Pain is seen as a glitch. Inconvenience is seen as unfair. But this thinking softens the edges of the mind. It leaves us exposed when real struggle inevitably shows up. Because it always does. Illness, loss, failure, rejection, crisis. And when it comes, most people are shattered not because they're weak, but because they never trained for resistance. Kai saw every choice as a rep, every discipline as a layer of unseen armor. Not for show, not for pride, but for peace. because there's a deep peace that only comes from knowing that you can endure, that you can walk into the fire and still hold your ground, that even if everything falls apart, you won't. That is a peace most people never touch because they never tested themselves beyond convenience. So how do you begin building that kind of strength? It starts with simple rituals, acts of resistance against the softness that creeps in daily. Wake up when it's hardest to. Move your body before your excuses. Wake up. Eat less than you want. Do more than you feel like. Sit in silence and listen to the thoughts that make you squirm. Go for a walk without your phone and feel the itch to distract yourself. Don't give in. Watch it pass. Learn that the part of you that resists difficulty is the same part of you that keeps you small. The Stoics believed that hardship reveals who you really are, but voluntary hardship lets you decide who you become. When you choose to embrace small discomforts, you are no longer caught off guard by big ones. When you willingly face boredom, fatigue, uncertainty, rejection, you teach your nervous system that it does not need to collapse. You train your soul to stand. Kai didn't wait for the fire to remind him of his purpose. He carried it with him every day. Not the fire he fought with water, the one he carried inside, the one that burned through excuses and delay. That fire was his edge, his guide. And when the real flames came, he didn't hesitate. He had already met the fire in himself and walked through it willingly. This is what preparation looks like. Not a checklist, but a lifestyle. A mindset that whispers, "I'm ready even when the world is falling apart." That doesn't need certainty to stay committed. That doesn't need applause to keep going. That doesn't collapse under pressure because pressure has become the training ground. You don't need a crisis to become strong. You just need to stop waiting for the world to shape you. You shape yourself. You decide now, while it's calm, while it's quiet, while you still have the choice. Because once the storm comes, you won't be able to train. You'll only be able to respond. And how you respond will depend entirely on what you've built in silence. Train for it now. Choose hardship, not to suffer, but to become. Because the storm is coming. But if you prepare well enough, you won't just survive it. You'll lead through it. Eli lived his life quietly. No headlines, no speeches, just long work days and late nights helping his daughter with homework at their small apartment in New York. He worked 2 jobs and never once complained. Not because it was easy, it wasn't, but because he had made a choice to live for something more than survival. He lived for purpose, for presence, for the kind of integrity that doesn't need an audience to matter. Most people live as if they have time to spare. They speak as if they'll always have the chance to apologize later, to try again to fix what's broken. But the truth is nobody knows when their final hour will come. And that truth isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. The Stoics practiced something called memento mori. Remember that you must die, not to make life morbid, but to make it meaningful. They understood that when you face the reality of death, you begin to strip away everything that's fake. The ego, the noise, the petty arguments. What remains is raw and clear. The only question that matters becomes, how are you living? Eli asked himself that question every single day. When he felt too tired to show up with patience. When he wanted to skip the extra shift. When his daughter needed time he didn't feel like giving. He asked, what would my final hour say about the way I've loved, the way I've worked, the way I've moved through this world? And every time the answer wasn't enough, he adjusted. Quietly, consistently, without applause. There is a weight to living like that. But there is also a clarity. When you live as if your time is running out, every moment starts to matter more. Every word carries intention. Every action reflects your deepest values. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop waiting for the perfect time. Because you finally realize the perfect time is a myth. There is only now, only this hour, only this breath. The world tells you to chase comfort, to chase success, to build a life that looks impressive. But Stoicism offers you something radically different. It says, Build a life you would be proud of in your final hour. Build a soul that stands, even when your name is forgotten. Build a legacy not of fame but of character. Eli never became rich. He never went viral, but people remembered him, not because of what he owned, but because of who he was. He was the man who showed up, who stayed when it was hard, who listened when others yelled, who worked with dignity even when no one watched. And when his time came, he didn't leave with regret. He left with peace, because he had given everything he had to the people and principles that mattered most. Ask yourself honestly, if today was your last, would you be proud of how you lived? Would you be proud of how you loved, how you responded, how you gave? Would the people around you say you stood for something real, or would they struggle to describe what you believed in their still time? That's the beauty of it. Every new sunrise is a chance to write the ending differently. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be intentional. You just have to care enough to stop drifting and start directing your life again. Write a letter to your future self, not filled with goals, but filled with values. What do you want to be remembered for? What kind of presence do you want to leave behind? What kind of energy do you want to carry into every room you enter? Then live that letter day by day, in the small moments where no one is watching, because those are the ones that build the legacy no one can take away. The Stoic doesn't fear death. He respects it. He uses it. He lets it remind him of what matters most, so that when his time comes, he can meet it with a full heart and an unshaken spirit. Not because he avoided pain, but because he lived with purpose. You do not need more time. You need more truth. You need more alignment. You need more courage to be exactly who you say you want to be, even when no one is clapping. Live as if the final hour could arrive today, and let that truth sharpen you, shape you, soften what's bitter, and strengthen what's weak. Let it guide you back to the path that has always been waiting for you. The path of meaning, the path of virtue, the path of a life that echoes long after it's gone. Adrian, Leona, Rami, Maya, Kai, and Eli were never trying to become heroes. They never set out to become the faces of strength or resilience. They were simply people who reached a breaking point and decided to respond differently. Their stories are not glamorous. They are raw, they are real, and they are deeply human. Adrian lived the dream on paper: wealth, comfort, recognition. But inside he was crumbling, not from failure, but from the slow erosion of meaning. He woke up every day wondering why his success felt so hollow until he realized he had been trained to chase comfort, not challenge. That was his awakening. The moment he decided that strength wasn't something you're born with, it's something you build. One decision at a time. Leona operated in chaos every day as a trauma surgeon in Barcelona. But it wasn't the hospital that built her resilience. It was the choices she made in silence. Cold mornings, empty plates, long runs through rain. She understood that discomfort wasn't the enemy. It was the gatekeeper of growth. And she walked through that gate again and again, not to suffer, but to sharpen. Rami was the emotional one. Sensitive, creative, reactive. A single word could derail his week. But he started to realize that his emotions weren't villains. They were signals. And if he could learn to observe instead of obey them, he could take his power back. So he did. One pause at a time, one breath, one journal entry, until he no longer reacted like a boy, but responded like a man. Maya painted for love, but lived in the shadow of silence. Years of effort went unnoticed, and she almost gave up. But the Stoic path taught her that fairness is an illusion, and freedom comes from detachment. She started creating again. Not for applause, but for truth. Her invisible work weeks became sacred. A time to serve her craft instead of her ego. And in that space, she rediscovered herself. Kai lived with fire in his hands, literally, as a firefighter. He knew danger, but what made him unshakable was the training he did when no one was watching. Long hikes in silence, meals of rice and beans, cold showers without complaint. He didn't wait for crisis to become strong. He prepared like the storm was already on its way, and because of that, he never panicked. He led Dot, and then there was Eli, the father, the worker, the quiet warrior. He never made headlines, but he lived as if each day was his final hour. Every moment with his daughter, every act of kindness, every extra shift carried intention, because he knew that one day his time would end, and he wanted his life to echo through the hearts he touched, not through the money he made. Together their stories form a mosaic of what it means to live the Stoic path. Not a perfect life, but a powerful one. Not a life free from pain, but a life rooted in strength. They each embodied one piece of the puzzle, and when you put those pieces together, you get a map. A map that leads not to success as the world defines it, but to self-mastery. The lesson is simple, but not easy. You will not become unshakable by accident. You will not stumble into mental strength by scrolling through affirmations. You must earn it, through discomfort, through discipline, through deep emotional honesty, through voluntary hardship, through surrendering your attachment to outcomes, through living with urgency, and above all, through virtue, quiet, steady, relentless virtue. This is how you build a life that cannot be broken. This is how you become the person you were meant to be before the world softened you, before fear silenced you, before doubt convinced you to play small. So ask yourself today, what part of this story is calling you forward? Is it Adrian's awakening, Leona's grit, Rami's emotional power, Maya's creative detachment, Kai's quiet training, Eli's noble purpose? Whatever it is, don't just listen to their story. Begin writing your own. Start small. Pick one practice, one shift, one discomfort to face, one lie to stop believing. You are not here to be soft. You are here to rise. Now it's your turn. What was the most powerful part of this journey for you? Was there a moment that reflected your own life more than you expected? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your answers so others can read it and find courage in it. This community grows stronger when we learn from each other, and if this story moved something in you, if it sparked something true inside you that you've been ignoring for too long, subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us create more content that doesn't just motivate, but transforms. Content that reminds you of who you are and what you're capable of becoming. Let's keep walking this path together. Not toward perfection, but toward power. Not for applause, but for truth. You are becoming unshakable. Keep going. We're right here with you.